Hello, and welcome to the Thinking Elixir podcast, where we cover the news of the community and learn from each other. My name is Mark Erickson.
And I'm David Bernheisel.
Let's jump into the news. First up, friend of the show, Dave Lucia, shared his recent PR that was merged into the Elixir codebase. So the problem, well, it's something you've probably all seen. It's the runtime error that says protocol undefined error and protocol string.char is not implemented for some struct. And if it's a large struct, then it's like really unreadable because it'll just wrap around and it's like there's no syntax highlighting or anything to like help you parse out what it is. And if you have nested structs within the struct, it's like, oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Dave's PR is titled Make Protocol Errors Pretty. Mm-hmm. And that's how he's addressing this is just make it prettier. But the change came out of a call when he was on a call with a couple colleagues where one was complaining about the ugly error message. And rather than just saying, yeah, it's annoying, we've all seen it, instead they jumped over into the Elixir codebase and fixed it. Dave's call to action for you, dear listener, or anyone else is anyone can do this. Be the change you want to see. So I love it. It's like, just don't just complain, reach out and fix it. And really, it's like, I've seen that before and I thought, oh, this is kind of annoying, but I never even really thought to try and fix it. So it's like just planting that idea. It's like some of these things can be fixed. They can be improved.
And it wasn't a terribly big PR either, into Elixir. Yeah. It's like, on one hand, is that ADHD driven development? I don't know. How far down the rabbit hole do you go?
That's true. That's true.
But I'm also grateful for it.
Yeah. So I did just want to call out the downside to this particular change is that logging is no longer on a single line. If your log reader is looking for a new line character to delineate that this is one log entry, this would be pretty printed, so it's going to cover multiple lines. But that really kind of depends on your logging system and if that's an issue for you or not. But overall, it was a conscious choice like that for legibility, it was worth the change.
Yeah. If your log parsing is based on the standard logs here, you've got other issues anyway, because this ain't the first time there's a new line in that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I actually see this problem a lot with like LiveView, when the process is crashing for one reason or another.
Yes.
It will, if you have something on your socket assigns, it's the socket that gets like spit out, right? And so something in that assigns doesn't derive, in my case, it doesn't derive like JSON. And so I get this protocol undefined here. It's just like, it's a misdirect of like where the issue actually is too, because that, even though the protocol is undefined there for whatever assign I have on the socket, it's a different issue, that's causing it to crash. So when I see that happen, I get all my structs and I just start deriving JSON encoder on it. Nice. And then I see the error and then I take all the deriving off. It's I guess that's evidence that sometimes I do hate myself. All right. But that's a pretty cool PR. Thanks, Dave. All right, next up. OTP 28 is getting a new feature called raw mode. I'm calling it raw mode. I don't know what it's really called. It's a new option in the interactive shell of Erlang. And so it can be helpful for consuming standard in, from the console. So normally, this is what you would normally do. You would have to wait for the line on standard in to like give you a new line or an end of stream kind of a thing before your program can actually see it. So if you wanted an interactive shell that gave you like kind of a chat interface to where you can kind of respond like directly in there or see at people like typing, kind of like LiveView if you think about it. You've probably seen a lot of LiveView examples out there of a chat program. You can kind of see like that somebody's typing, that kind of thing. Anyway, and so you can now kind of simulate that a little bit better in the shell. So terminal UI applications are probably going to benefit a lot from this. So got a little code snippet here. So the Erlang has a module called shell. You do shell start interactive, and then you provide the option raw in there. Mm-hmm. And that allows you, the process, to receive that input immediately and decide whether to like actually act upon it or just build, information as they're typing something. You can think of this like a prime example, you've probably seen this, is like fuzzy finders.
Oh yeah.
You're typing in, whatever you're looking for, and then the filters are applying right there as you're typing. Like that's exactly what you would use this for. And so a nice person out there has provided an example program that is leveraging this, in a little toy application, I reckon, called Chat. So you can see exactly what this can do for you. And there's a nice demo as well on the GitHub, so you don't have to pull it down to see what the effects are. But yeah, think of IRC, and I see even got like distributed nodes in there, which is kind of cool. But yeah. You can get a more sophisticated terminal application now with OTP 28 coming up.
Nice. And next up, a talk from Saša Jurić was posted to YouTube. It's from Codebeam America, which was held back in March 2024, but it's now available online. It's titled Against the Grain. And so what I realized was that Saša actually gave this talk previously at Codebeam Europe. And the video for that was Codebeam Europe 2023. And the video was posted actually 5 months ago. But, I had not seen it then, and I wasn't at Codebeam Europe for the live viewing of it. So I've just been watching the one that just was released, and I hadn't seen it before. It's really good. So if you, dear listener, have not seen this talk before, Saša Jurić is always a great presenter, always gives really thoughtful and thought-provoking ideas. The video description for this one is, this talk tells a story of developing a bespoke Kafka client. None of the existing libraries in the Beam ecosystem fulfilled the needs of the team, and it was estimated that contributing new changes to those projects would be very difficult. At the same time, writing and maintaining a client from scratch would require a lot of time, much more time than the team could afford. So the talk is really all about going against the grain, which is, the standard answer is, reach for a library or build it and make a library. And the approach with this was, hey, this is Kafka. This is its own big thing. What if we can just leverage an existing Java client and use ports in the Erlang ecosystem, have a port open up that Java client, and then just so you have this thin little Java piece, and then you're able to serialize your data over, from the Elixir side, serialize it in a binary format that gets deserialized on the Java side, and then back. And being able to do that to give you all of the features, because there were new features that were added to Kafka that they didn't have support for. So it's a great talk because it helps you realize and just kind of open your mind up to recognizing this pattern of there's something I need for my project and there's not an existing solution that's good. What are my options? I can think a little bit more outside the box and think about how I can incorporate things like with ports or NIFs or something like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, I've seen a trend lately of Rust libraries just getting, Elixir NIFs or Elixir wrappers around them that just bind over to it. You don't hear a lot about bindings to Java libraries, so it's kind of interesting to see it here. And it's not a NIF either, I guess. It's just a port, but pretty interesting. I don't recall, but I'm connecting some old knowledge of when I see Erlang compile, there's an ODBC adapter that's part of that, right? And
true, yes.
I think that's like part of the purpose of that is because Erlang didn't have all these database drivers, but Java did. And so ODBC was just the way to get all those database drivers. I could be wrong, but this feels a bit like that. To leverage some of the existing ecosystem out there, but in different languages. All right, moving on. We got Johanna Larsson, Jola Dev, as you might know her by, of HexDiff fame. She launched a new mini site that lists Elixir events. That's pretty much all there is to it. it's elixirevents.net. It's a fairly short list at this point. I want to say that the Erlang Ecosystem Foundation also has a calendar of events going on, though it is quite large. So this is a slimmer list for now, but anyone can submit their event that they know about. So at the time that I'm looking at it, it seems to be mostly focused on just the large conferences that are happening around the world. And I don't know if this is her or not, but typically what she designs just looks good too. The Erlang, nothing against the Erlang Ecosystem Foundation, but their calendar is just pure data. It's not exactly the prettiest to look at. So if for only that, you can now look at elixirevents.net to see what upcoming conferences and other events are, and you can filter by location for what it's worth. Yep. So pretty neat.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where I think I saw Johanna's post on Blue Sky, just saying, "Hey, I'm stepping back into the community, and what are the events going on?" And I think that was like, a way to scratch your own itch of like, I'd like to keep track of the events. So if I just create a simple little app to do that, then I'll always have access to that information.
Yeah.
So that's great. And next up, Brian Cardarella of DockYard announced that they are now accepting native application contracts. They've been unofficially accepting them for a few months now, but now they're making it official. So this isn't really meant to be like an ad for DockYard. It is to highlight LiveView Native, open source library that they have pioneered and created and put a lot of effort and engineering behind. And the fact that they're saying, hey, we are now ready to take clients officially, like we're listing this, we got a link to their services mobile page where they're talking about this. But honestly, I just see this as a signal of their level of confidence in the library and what it's capable of doing today for clients. So if you've been holding off and haven't really taken a deeper look at LiveView Native, this might be a good time to take that deeper look.
Kind of related, but not about native. DockYard also teased some work, particularly Brian Cardarella teased some work that he was spiking on that adds a Motion.dev wrapper. Mark, have you heard of Motion.dev?
I hadn't before this. I had to go look it up.
Yeah, so I've only caught wind of it, but it seems to be a very exhaustive library that deals with animations in a more generic way or a reusable way, I think. And so I'm familiar with Tailwind, and Tailwind has a couple of components in there, and they have a couple of like animation examples in there. You can pulse, something inside of a button, for example. But that's a fairly simple animation. And so if you wanted to have a more impressive animation, that is where Motion.dev kind of comes in. And Motion.dev, maybe you've heard of Framer Motion before. Framer Motion is now just Motion. I guess they dropped the Framer part of it. Seems fine to me. Motion's definitely nice and simple. So Motion.dev is just a modern animation library for JavaScript and in particular React. It seems to work a lot with React components. That said, it's not restricted to only React, and this is where Brian Cardarella's work comes in. He's created a bit of a wrapper and published a hex package called Motion, easy to find, and it is as far as I can tell, it looks like it is a LiveView JS command wrapper around Motion, the Motion.js library. So there's a tiny bit of little glue work that you got to do, which is okay in my opinion, really. But the README really kind of shows everything. But if you wanted to use Phoenix LiveView and also have some neat and easy to use animations on whatever elements that you're producing, this looks like a really good way, an easier way to hook them into your components. In that announcement, he also has a couple of little videos and demos, which is pretty interesting to see. Brian said that it's something worth watching, but perhaps maybe not ready like now for production use, though that'd probably be okay. It's not that Motion's not ready for it. Obviously, it's ready. It's the wrapper part of it. So he says, I need to upstream changes into LiveView to have it be fully functional. Specifically, I have no way to set or remove the Phoenix ref attributes on target elements for animations to start and stop and cancel and all that kind of stuff. And animations like this and touch support really help the page not feel like a web page. You don't want it to feel more like an app, right? Motion, that kind of stuff. iOS is particularly good at that. The animation support in LiveView could be better. So that's why it's kind of important. So the work is, this works by generating client-side JS commands, so it's not really adding React or anything else to the client, so it should integrate fairly well. So we'll be keeping an eye on it for sure, but this looks like a pretty cool piece to almost have in your standard tool build of like, of like, this is what I need to have, like for a really good quality site. That said, don't let silly animations hold you up from shipping. This, I kind of remember like dark mode, like a couple years ago, like everybody had to like stop what they were doing and implement dark mode. Dark mode is not going to give you any sales, you know, or keep your app used or something. It's just going to keep people's eyes not from being blinded by the sun of their screen. But on top of that though, like dark mode is pretty nifty to have. It feels like a good page, like a thoughtful page, and animations are that same kind of realm, at least to me personally. So those slight little animations are really cool. So this looks like a library to keep track of. It's called Motion, and that's on Hex. And then there's the JavaScript part of that, which is Motion.dev. So you can go check it out.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out Motion.dev, you can just check out their website, and they have a number of little demos where you can just see what they're talking about with these different styles of animations. And they're really nice. It's like, you know, it's just something you want a region to scale and kind of grow to take focus. And it just does it nice and smooth, and it's elegant and just kind of overlays on top of the other stuff. Things like that, or like where it's springy, you know, it's like, oh, I would love these. These are really great. Yeah. So thanks to Brian for putting in the work to even make that more accessible to us in Elixir. And last up, ElixirConf EU announced that Jose Valim and Chris McCord will be keynote speakers at the conference. So their call for talks is now open. If you're interested in maybe talking there, you know you'd at least be in good company if you want to be one of the speakers. As a reminder, ElixirConf EU is 15th and 16th of May, 2025. It is a 2-track hybrid conference where the in-person part is in Krakow, Poland, and it's also virtual. So very cool. I've never been out to an ElixirConf EU conference, but there's always great stuff that comes out of it too.
One day I'm going to make it over there.
That would be awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us next time on Thinking Elixir.